A warm welcome, one and all. And once again, thank you for joining us today at another session of Parichay. Happy to see you all here. And today we are going to talk about I can say, the most trending topic, I can say, that is the new age employee experience. What's changed and what's not. So let's discuss more about this. And we also have our expert speakers in our session today. So we will also get to hear their insights and the expertise from them. So how this session goes on is, for first couple of minutes, we will be discussing on the current topic. That is, like I already mentioned, the new age employee experience. All right. So after that, the time is all for you, that is the audience Q&A. So if you have any questions, you can start posting them in the Zoom control panel of the Q&A option, or you can also drop in your questions in the chat of Zoom control panel. All right, so we will take them up during the Q&A round and try and get the answers from our experts today. Also, the session is currently being recorded, so if happens to miss out on any part of our today's session, not to worry at all. We have got you covered. You will definitely receive the recorded session soon after the session is done. All right. So to tell you more about our today's topic, what I feel is employee experience is an employer's perception about their journey from the time they join till they leave the company, right? So many factors like work culture, benefits, technology, engagement with the leaders, etc., affect an employee's experience. If they have an enriching experience that aligns well with their priorities and professional goals, they stay with the company. Needless to say, pandemic has had a huge impact on both people and the companies. So it has played a key role in the digital transformation that we are seeing in almost every industry today, and at the same time affected the choices and priorities of employees. Nowadays, we see employees focusing more on their mental health and wanting to work in a company which provides them work-life balance. So, what has changed? In the next 1 hour, we are going to discuss the new age employee experience in length and understand from our industry leaders about how the employee experience has evolved during the pandemic, what new age employee experience is, and most of all, its importance. So, let me introduce our guest speakers today. So we have Ms. Suchandra Dutta, Senior Manager, India HR Lead. So Suchandra is an alumnus of Has School of Business, University of Berkeley, with 15 plus years of strategy, consulting, program management, and practitioner experience in the area of human resources. So as a senior HR leader, she has led different HR functions with leading global organizations such as AstraZeneca, Novozymes, Alcatel-Lucent, and many more. A dynamic leader with experience in working with global cross-functional teams and implementing global projects in HR. So, Ms. Suchandra, we are happy to have you here. A warm welcome to this session.
Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you, Sharmishta. It's a pleasure to be back on this panel again and for an enriching discussion.
All right. So let me also introduce our next guest speaker of today's session. It is Mr. Manan Sharma. So Mr. Manan is a director and country head of HR and admin, India Blaize. So to tell you more about Mr. Manan, he's a seasoned HR professional with extensive experience in handling HR management, leadership counseling, strategic human capital decisions, performance management, employee relations, and learning and development initiatives in a multitude of business environments like IT, semiconductor, ITES, and financial services. He holds internationally recognized certification in HR and related fields. So, Mr. Manan, we are delighted to have you here in the session. Welcome to the session again.
Thank you very much for having me here. Looking forward to the discussion.
Sure. Yeah. So, dear audience, now we are moving towards the discussion. So, how this goes on is I'll be asking a couple of questions to our experts today, and they will share their insights and point of view with all of us. And soon after that, you can start putting across your questions, and our experts will be happy to take it up them as well. All right. So, Suchandra, I would like to start off with you. So, my first question for you is, how has the workforce evolved post the pandemic?
Thank you, Rashmi. So if you look at it, this pandemic, it has completely changed how we work, how we perceive our work, how we manage ourselves entirely, right? So employees moved from a completely primary office environment to a new workplace experience. So if you look at it like 2 years back, 70% of the workforce, right, moved from a 5-day work office to a full-time work from home. And if you now look at what is happening, right? So as companies are reopening, employees are kind of demanding like ongoing flexibility and where and when they work, improvements in how they work and the technology to make them more productive, both in the office and virtually as well. So if you look at the current workforce is very mixed, right? They have gotten used to a comfort from of a hybrid model of a remote work experiences of flexibility, and that is what they want to continue at this stage in their career as well, in their workplaces. So as leaders of today, most of the organizations are now forced to think about how to manage this requirements of the workforce, right? Most of the companies, if you look at, are going off a more of a hybrid model. Some are going completely remote, giving that kind of a flexibility, because it all leads up to an employee experience. Because at the end of the day, what we are looking forward is a productive employee, and giving them that kind of a flexibility, that kind of a work environment of, makes it much more collaborative, makes it much more enhancing, right? So leaders are currently being forced to think about how the future of collaboration will be, what kind of culture we are going to build in this new post-pandemic era, what are the kind of performance skills and developments and more, we can think about, and reimagining the workplace to suit more of the future, which is like this year already, is more of a hybrid working. Flexibility, as we used to say, which was a nice to have earlier, it's no more as a nice to have. Rather, it is an employee expectation, right? And that is a key consideration as well when we look at the current workforce, to attract and retain employees as well.
Sure, Suchandra. So, Mr. Manan, while we talk about the various factors post-pandemic, I have a question for you. So, the question is, according to you, how has the pandemic impacted employees' priorities now?
Well, obviously, the first change has been that health has become a big factor. The whole multinational trend in India, remember, started off in the 90s with the business process outsourcing revolution and the simultaneous raising up of the big four, big five IT services companies that we see in India today. And it was considered to be okay to compromise on your health in order to actually meet your aspirations on the career side. Now that somehow post-pandemic is no longer an option, because this is not a flu that you recover from in 5 days and then come back to work. Okay, this has fundamentally changed the definition of health, employee wellness. I think the priorities have shifted in a rightful manner towards financial inclusiveness in wellness. When we think of the concept of wellness, we have been thinking about health only, but health is also of multiple kinds: physical health, mental health, financial health. For a person earning 30 to 40,000 rupees per month, a single case of long COVID in the family can set them back by a decade in terms of their financial capabilities. So I think the questions that employees have started asking are on the lines: is this company capable of taking care of me? Will they stand by me if something wrong, something bad was going to happen to me in these times? And till how long will they hold our hands? I think that has brought in an entirely different dimension to the employer brand that we have been so used to. Ajay Tata, as the head or the patriarch of the Tata Sons, uh, he's been venerated everywhere because he has brought to the table this age-old concept of taking care of your employees like your family. And I think those values have come to the fore. Employees have started demanding those concepts. So if today you are engaging with an IT professional and trying to make them an offer, they're not just going to be happy if you tell them that this is your medical insurance, this is your term insurance. They're going to ask you, is there a COVID specific cover that you have? Okay. And then obviously priorities have shifted towards family. Now, I stay in Hyderabad, my family stays up north. And all of a sudden, this, for the nuclear families specifically, it has thrown up this entirely new angle of the need of family being together. Okay. And I'm willing to take a pay cut to go back to my own hometown and work from there. And I think those are the various manifestations that you see. It is very likely that you will have a discussion around, are you allowing work from home? How often are you allowing work from home? What about flexibility? Okay, so I think that has been the employees' paradigm shift in terms of what they have been asking from their employers. And for the right talent, these questions are basic hygiene factors now. You don't answer these questions, they are not going to even come on board. So gone are the days wherein you used to hide behind the offer letter. When I say you, I'm talking about human resource professionals. We used to say, oh, we are going to talk about policies once you have joined us. That cover is no longer there. And the talent hunt is such, it is such in a white hot state right now that you have to be at the absolute best game when it comes to employee engagement and employee well-being. So I think, yeah, I think employees have started demanding more, rightfully so. And I think it's a very positive sign because no longer are we in that India wherein we were being very thankful to the companies which are coming up and setting shop here in India. We know they don't have options. So if they are coming here, they're not doing us a favor. They are actually going with the trend of getting the best talent in the world. So I think from a cost arbitration standpoint, India versus US dollar thing, all those things are still relevant, but in pockets. I think the bigger demand is around the talent pool. The talent pool knows it, that they are in demand. And that's why they're not going to settle with anything but the best when it comes to employees taking care of them. So I think those are the shifts, clear shifts and priorities that we have seen emerging in the last 10, 15 years, triggered by this pandemic. Rashmi.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Manan. I think you have put it in the most beautiful manner. I, as an employee, can completely relate to what you're exactly saying now. So, thanks for that. Thanks for sharing your insights.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chandra, while we continue our discussion, now my question to you is from HR perspective. All right. So, my question is, why do HR leaders need to focus on employee experience now more than ever?
Well, I think Mr. Manan answered part of it. It's partly because of the talent crunch and the white hot talent market that we are currently seeing today. Creating the best of employee experiences with the various different kind of value propositions that you are creating is the crux of attracting and getting the best of the talent on board. I think I echo completely with Mr. Manan had said, right? Today's talent is not going to settle for anything less. And hence, today the HRs, leaders, everybody has to focus on creating the best of the experience out there, right? Gone are those days when employees were happy with an office which used to give them loads of free goodies, free food, right? You have a full cafeteria, you are getting movie tickets, you are getting holidays. That's not important for them anymore, correct? They have started asking important questions, right? Like I rightly said by Mr. Manan. What is my insurance cover? What is my health benefits? How are you going to take care of me? And these are all part of the employee experience factor. Employees today are very choosy. Their decision to stick around with an organization is solely based on how they are made to feel within the organization. And especially when you look at a hybrid work culture or today's kind of workforce, we are facing a lot of challenges, right? One is, what kind of a productivity are we looking at? How are we as an organization, as HR leaders, working on the policies and processes to promote that engagement, which makes the employee feels valued within the organization? That's very important right now. Correct. Earlier, there used to be various different kind of rewards and recognitions practices, but today, any good talent is seeking that, am I going to get an objective growth path within the organization or not? Does the organization values my efforts, my credibility, and gives me a learning curve and ladder or not? What kind of a culture is it that an organization is having? Is it going to foster growth for me? Is it going to foster communication? Or what are the silos out there, right? So we need to, HR leaders are focusing on the employee experience part to create that Uber experience for any employee today. And that's key, because I want the best of the talent out over there. If you look at today's market, the offer rejection ratio is almost 70%. I mean, every organization, especially in the IT sector, is struggling to get talent. Money is important, right? But then apart from money, they are looking at the comfort of, am I going to be given the right flexibility? I don't want to move from my city in Hyderabad. You are based out of Bangalore. Can I get a remote option? So even if I'm working remote, what are the other facilities are you going to give me? So there are so many discussion which keeps on happening, and we can't hide behind our set processes. Hey, this is the best offer, and we will discuss the rest of it when you join us. I mean, I keep on talking to candidates on a regular basis, and they keep on telling me, you know what, my company has now launched this new policy over here. So they are going to take care of me in this way. What are you doing? So, I mean, that is the expectation. And as an organization, I have started looking at it. Okay, fine. So this is a retention that our organization is doing. Maybe as an organization, I need to pick those up and start implementing some of those. So I'm trying to create a future employee experience by talking to my candidates and learning what is happening in their present organizations. And it's an interactive dialogue. I have seen candidates, talent appreciating it as well, especially senior people, because they want to, when they're making a move or a change, they are looking at, is the organization listening to me? Is the organization open to, understand what do I want? It is not only about money anymore. Obviously, it's a big part of the game today, but there are so many other hidden factors that we need to cater to. Rashmi.
Yes, Suchandra. So I think I absolutely agree with you. You just hit the nail while you talk about the HR perspective here, because there are many factors like employee experience, the talent crunch. It's definitely a big issue to any companies now. So in that case, Manan, my question to you is, what do you think? How can companies align their business goals with the employee experience?
See, I think COVID has been a blessing in disguise for India. Okay. Look at the generic medicine sector, look at the defense sector, look at the IT sector. Okay. The COVID piece and the various geopolitical dynamics which are going on right now, the Russia-Ukraine thing that is going on, it has presented an unforeseen opportunity for us. Okay. Now, not everyone sees it that way. Now, again, this is a hangover of the business process outsourcing era. If the US economy used to get impacted in a negative manner, somebody here in India used to catch a fever. We are actually moving towards a model wherein India has been able to a large extent, isolate itself from these root shocks. Okay. And I think this is something that needs to be communicated. So the reason I started off with the context is because your goals are going to be dependent upon the context. As an organization, are you clearly having a dialogue with your managers, with your leadership team, with your grassroots level employees about how this is an opportunity and that this is the best time to put in our efforts and reap our rewards later on? So I think the communication piece is important. Any alignment, okay? Communication is important. You are running across the Napa Valley in your car, Formula 2, Formula 3 car. Your navigator is very important. They are the ones who tell you, right, sharp left, sharp right. Are you navigating in that clear fashion with your employees? And communication is the key to that. Now, that's the macro view. If I were to make it micro, the relationship that defines all these outcomes is the relationship between the manager and the direct report. And you move this relationship across hierarchies. If this single link is broken, the entire org structure and the entire org design exercise goes to the dogs, literally. So I think the pandemic and the circumstances, the economic circumstances that we are in right now, they have accentuated the need for this relationship to be of the highest order. Because for me, my manager is the eyes and ears of the organization, and they are the ones I engage with. They are the ones who tell me what the policy is. So I think a solid foundation on communication, clearly defined strategy on what we are trying to do in these uncertain times that allows us to be certain about our next revenue, next dollar, next rupee that is coming into our pockets. And this juxtaposed with the relationship between the manager and the direct report. I think these are the key ingredients in making sure that the alignment between the organization and the individual does not get broken. The only thing I can add to this is organizations are increasingly moving towards assessing the individual's performance, regardless of where the performance has been delivered from. And I think that's an important stage. I think most of the Indian companies were caught off guard because trust between the employer and the employees does not come naturally in the Indian context. Okay, we believe that 95% of the employees are going to take advantage of us. 5% of the employees are going to behave in the most genuine case. My personal study and my personal experience says that the number is up the other way around. 5% to 2%, 2% to 5% are the ones who try and take advantage of policies. 95% to 98% come to work to give their best shot and have a good life, make a future for themselves. So I think that trust factor has to be there. And I think we have to build upon this partnership. It's a strange tide, both for the employers and for the employees, and we have each other. So I think it's important that we lean into each other a bit and work together towards finding the new reality, as we call it. So alignment is important, but communication is the key to it, the way I see it.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Manan. Suchandra, while we talk about opportunities and the communication alignment, it actually leads to my next question. So my next question is, what strategies can be adopted by the companies to improve the employee experience then?
Okay. So a recent study which happened this year, 2022, by Will Towers Watson, they found that 90% of employers this time are looking at enhancing the employee experience, and that is on the top of their charts. Like if you look at HR goals, that is one on the top. How to improve employee experience, how to work on employee engagement, how to make it better. Like because we are talking about experience all throughout. So one of the key strategies, I think that's important. And again, it goes a lot about what Mr. Manan was talking about, communications and that engagement between the manager and the direct reports. The onus lies on every leader in the organization. I think one of the first thing that anybody needs to take a look at is, or the first approach is to look at it from a point of empathy. So when we start approaching employee experience from their point of view, I think we will be able to come up with impactful ways of how to engage them, right? So leading with empathy means understanding and accepting that they're not always operating at their very best. And that is true in today's workforce and today's era, and the way COVID has changed our perceptions of our life and experiences, correct? So it's very important that when we are designing any policies, processes, any employee engagement, we look at it from an employee side, from an empathetic side over there, right? I would say from a leader's point of view, we need to be authentic, right? Which means that when we are asking any questions or asking for feedback, it should reflect that we really care about and we are interested in making their experience better, right? Adding a personal touch. So consistently communicating with a personal touch will build a very genuine relationship between the leaders and their direct reports, and that's important. That communication piece, it goes back and works and fits into the communication piece. Making time to connect. When you are working hybrid or some of the companies working remote, you will find most often that employees are working remotely, right? They are just looking and delivering. How do, as an organization, we are making time to connect individually with them? Maybe we can set up processes or meetings with them wherein you touch base with the managers, touch bases with them on a weekly basis, discuss anything and everything other than work, and trying to engage with them more on a personal note, right? Also, it is also important that we start respecting boundaries of people, right? Not everybody's definition, right, what is a great employee experience is the same for everyone. So trying to customize and personalize, I will say, the employee experience is an important. Another way, what I would look at as strategy is increasing the sense of belongingness. So if you look at it and taking one of the statements that Mr. Manan made about JRD Tata, wherein he spoke about inclusiveness, like he treated their employees as a family, and that is coming back. So when we look at increasing belongingness, sense of belongingness with employees, it helps them to bond more with us, which is like taking intentional inclusion initiatives wherein employees maintain their initial feeling of inclusion throughout their career journeys with us, right? Like as I was saying, like from the day one, even before an employee joins, I start communicating with them. I make them feel a part of the organization and that they have a say in bringing out their ideas of what policies will work best for an organization, right? So it helps to build in that inclusion and is more effective in today's day and world. Obviously, we are also looking at one of the strategies is most out of companies that we have been looking at now are forcing employees to come back to work on an office. So it's important that organizations understand the criticality of the employee and give that remote option. Taking away remote option completely will make your employee experience fall. Today, we cannot have an organization completely working out of office. I don't think any organization is there today, which is completely, gone back to office 100%. We will have some percentage remote and some percentage going hybrid. I mean, for example, even though my team, everybody, we want to work from office, I still do a hybrid model because it gives me that kind of a flexibility. And I choose to do it because I feel I'm more productive that way. So keeping these things in mind and these strategies will definitely help in enhancing your employee experiences.
Sure. Thank you so much, Suchandra. So I think while we come up with various strategies, like Suchandra just rightly mentioned, Manan, let's say we have also implemented these now. Okay, so the next question is, how can HR track, measure, and analyze the employee experience then? It's
Okay.
like, what after this?
This is my favorite question. The reason I tell you is because I can magically make things appear on this particular question. What is employee experience? Okay, employee experience is the first cold call or the email that they receive in their inbox introducing your company to them, and that there is one such position. So imagine the hire to fire cycle, and you start figuring out that there are touch points that are riddled across this entire spectrum. When you start being mindful about these things, that's when you start becoming conscious that there are these high impact, high intensity touch points which are existing. And then it's just a measure. Actually, putting metrics around a particular behavior or a particular experience is not very tough. I mean, it's like that feedback call that you get once you are getting off the call with one of these e-retail giants. Okay, if the customer care gives you a call, they're going to say, can you please hang on for 5 seconds and give us a vote of confidence or score us on scale of 1 to 5. So the net promoter score is there. Ongoing employee feedback is there. There are various tools, artificial intelligence embellished tools, which are available, which do a real-time sense check on the sentiment of the employees. Okay. let's talk about onboarding. How soon did the person get the assets? How many windows did the person had to go to actually collect their IT assets? Did they get the manual to actually operate their EPBX or their desk phone? Do they know, they have a list of all the people that they need to reach out to file their taxes, show the previous employer salary, get their forms, registration done, UN number, transfer, all those aspects, okay? Each of these are a measurable quantum, and you can decide where you want to go micro. You typically go micro if you're not able to figure out what the problem is. If you know largely it is working fine, you go macro and you just ask a question like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how happy are you with your onboarding experience? It does not stop at onboarding. The next thing that comes after onboarding is assimilation. Do they feel a part of the workforce? Do they feel in line with the culture of the company? Have they understood the culture of the company? Is there feedback? Are there mechanisms wherein they can voice their concerns or angst if they are not able to come to terms with certain aspects of the culture, right? How's the food? Okay. Is the water too cold? Or is the water quality not that good? Is it smelling bad? Are the cafeterias maintained properly? The moment you start becoming data centric around it, any guy, any person who has the faintest of interest in creating a data set would be able to give you n number of points and questions to ask. Okay. I think it's more about being mindful. And I think, as my co-panelist has already pointed, empathy, being able to walk a mile in the shoes of the folks whom you are trying to serve, right? I think that goes a long way, because I will not be able to understand, sitting at a high level, I might not be able to understand the hassles that I have to undergo on the last day of the work. And by the way, exit is a very, very important and high intensity touch point. The flavor that you leave in the mind of the relieving person getting relieved, it's very important. That defines your alumni network. So was it hassleful? Were they very guarded when they were giving feedback about their manager? Were they worried that their background verification would return negative just because they are being vocal in that? All these aspects come into the picture. And I think it's important that we start being mindful about these pieces, trying to step, because see, it's a transaction. For an HR operations person, it is one person, one less person to worry about. Okay. But that's not the mindset that you should be dealing with. I think you should be thinking about every employee that leaves your company, they are potentially a brand ambassador. If they happen to land in an environment which is suboptimal, which is less than the environment that you have created for them, they are likely to talk about you to their peer group and say, in my previous company, this used to happen, right? And that's what it is. I think employee experience, if you ask me a question like how important is employee experience, I'm going to ask you back a question like, how important is employer brand, right? It's that basic a question. And a brand is made up of experiences. I like Amul milk because I grew up on it. Okay, there is a jam, then there is the achar, there is the pickle. These are narratives that have got built because of experiences that I had. What is the experience that you are creating for your employees? I think that's what it boils down to. And metrics and measures, you can throw a dime a dozen. Okay, as long as you know where to look for. And if you're asking for the feedback, human resources, I don't know how many companies have turnaround times predefined for any request that is raised to the human resource department. Okay, turnaround time is a great metric. If they are asking for exercising their stock options, if they're asking for a letter or address proof, do they have to reach out to HR, or does your HRMS have a capability wherein they just click and generate it on their own? Okay, it's this amount of thoughtfulness that goes into user experience. It is not esoteric. Okay, it is not abstract. You step into one onboarding day and you'll be able to walk away with 10 dozen data points on what all you need to measure. Okay, I think it's thoughtfulness that is hard to inculcate. I think that's what we need to do. Metrics and measures are secondary. Let's get into the experience first, and then let's start measuring it. That's what my 2 cents would be, Rashmi.
Sure. Thank you so much, Manan. So I think, yeah, like you rightly said, it's more about being employee friendly first, then consider your facts and figures. So thank you so much for putting it across so well. Suchandra, this leads to my next question. I'm sure you have already partially answered this question, but would like to hear more about it from you. So the question is, how does the hybrid model of working impact the employee experience?
Okay. We did cover this in bits and pieces while we were, talking and responding to the other questions. So see, hybrid model today, if you look at it, most of them are, all the organizations are looking at it in a positive manner, because if we are able to manage the hybrid model effectively, it has got an immense employee experience impact. I will just, maybe touch base on a couple of points. Let's talk about certain things that an organization looks at, right? Looking at and how increase productivity and that relativity to employee experience. So hybrid model today is giving the flexibility, and we are empowering employees to, to work on the strength and boost the productivity, right? But then again, when we are talking about this, giving them that option of increasing their productivity and having flexibility, we also need to give them that autonomy to choose and decide and how and when I'm going to work, where I'm going to work from, and give me that flexibility and choice and option. Not just give you a checklist like, hey, this is a hybrid model, these are the days you're going to come, these are the timings you're going to work. Because after like almost 1.5 years of setting their own timetable and calendars, employees want that flexibility. They don't want to come back into an organization and feel that I'm being micromanaged, because they have been operating on trust, right? And rightly said by Mr. Manan also that 2 to 5% or 10% maximum, I will say, employees take advantage of this flexibilities, but the rest 90% are happy about this flexibilities and processes that is given in a hybrid model, and they show increased productivity, and it impacts your employee experience directly, right? They can, work asynchronously and synchronously whenever they're in office and get their things done. That is one piece we are looking at. The second, what we are looking at is when we are giving them their choices and preference in a hybrid model, it is a direct impact of culture also, because we are also trying to build a culture which is more open, transparent. We are building our communication blocks. We are making our communication stronger. So if you look at it, a lot of these larger organizations, they have started using various different kind of communication platforms. Like if you can talk about Google Workplace, right? Skype, a lot of companies are using Skype as a model, as a communication tool for everything. Slack, for example, I think I have used Slack in 2 of my previous organizations. It's like constant chatter keeps on happening. You don't lose out on any kind of effective communication which is happening. And you can choose what are the communication threads that you are going to be a part of. Organizations today are looking at disseminating information in various different ways, keeping the team members updated of what is happening, how things are happening, what kind of decision making is going on. So this again is a culture building, which is again having a positive experience on the employee experience side. Again, one more area which hybrid model allows us to focus on for an employee experience impact positively is possibilities for continuous learning. So now as we are, we are growing and we are understanding the challenges, we are also becoming more performance driven. So if you would have looked at a couple of the recent one, Meta have said, right, we are looking at performances. So which basically indicates that we are going to up our performance areas. We are going to, thresh away those set of people who are not up to the mark. Every organization is now tightening it in that way. So for performance driven culture, again, people were not having enough time to up their learning skills because they're too busy traveling to and fro in a city. Like, if I give an example of Bangalore, spending 2 hours, 3 hours on the road. Now in a hybrid model, that time can be effectively utilized by them to invest in their own learning skills, in their professional development areas and all. So we should also, as a leader, we should be humble enough to recognize that learning doesn't happen only in training courses, right? We should be able to create those kind of everyday opportunities and for learning and reflections within teams, outside teams, uh, create those kind of environment for continuous learning with the set of people. And I think one more area that I would look at as a positive transformation of hybrid model is it also has created better work collaborations and work relationships as well. In the last 2 years, we have learned how to collaborate virtually, right? I mean, there are drawbacks as well, but our time spent in person meetings and the effectiveness of it and meetings done virtually, which has got a set agenda, has reduced our all those times and meetings and discussions. Because we always say, we spend any manager you ask today, they will say, I spend around 70% of my day in meetings itself, and the rest 30% I run around to finish my work. Correct? So hybrid model has also helped us to manage our time better, the meetings better. As I mentioned, like asynchronously, I can get a data and updates. I don't need to ask somebody to come in person and meet me and give me those updates today. So there are a lot of these aspects today from an hybrid model, which is translating into a positive employee experience.
Sure, Suchandra. So while we talk about positive employee experience, I have another question for you, but I'll keep it for later. And before I move to my last question to Mr. Manan, dear audience, if you have any questions, please start putting them across in the Q&A option of the Zoom control panel. We'll be happy to take it up. And also, Mr. Manan, my last question for you for today. It is about the digital world. While we talk about how can we make our entire experience of the employee being happy, what role does this digital platform play? So clear cut, my question is, as today's world is a digital world, how can employee experience be improved digitally or by using the digital platforms?
The agenda is simple. Okay. So I'll look back to a previous question on why it makes sense to have a thoughtful employee experience. When you are taking away 80 to 90% of their tensions when they're sitting on their work desk, okay, you are essentially telling them that we are here to take care of you, right? The moment you create and pass on that message, okay, you have created a bit of stickiness right in that moment. Okay, they can find a higher salary, but it will be very difficult for them to find an experience wherein they are being taken care of, all their worries are being taken care of in a manner that they can focus on their work. Okay, now humans are reciprocating individuals. Okay, if you do good to me, I'll try and do good to you. Okay, and this stickiness, how does it precipitate? They are going to try and do more than what is asked of them. That is the basic definition of employee engagement. How do you differentiate between an engaged employee and a non-engaged employee? The engaged employee is more likely to put in voluntary effort over and above what is being asked of them, right? The moment you create this stickiness and this relationship, okay, you start caring about everything that touches them. Even before we start talking about the digital world, okay, let's not get swayed by all the artificial intelligence and machine learning jazz that is going on around us. The human experience at the end of the day is best served by a human. Okay. Until the time we reach that paradigm wherein a robot is able to replicate the human emotions, I think we should go easy on digital. We should try and be intuitive about the platforms available to us. We should try and redesign them. Okay. Just one last thing. After all the cloud platforms have been designed on HRMS, what happens when you ask for a customization on the HRMS platform? The HRMS team comes back and says, oh, the software architecture is being used by multiple stakeholders at the same time. If we make any changes for you, it's going to impact the changes, impact the employee experience of other companies. Cost is the biggest driver of moving towards the cloud solutions in HRMS. But the biggest limitation is you get straitjacketed into their vision of what a digital experience should look like. So I think we are still some distance away from there. We are making some significant progress, but a lot needs to be done. This is not a digital world. Essentially, we are trying to make sense of digital, and we are trying to make sure that we don't lose out on the catchphrase. Okay, it's FOMO, more than anything else, right? Essentially, the human interaction is getting pushed back to the back burner. I think that's a problem. Let's not be too digital. We are not meant to be digital. Our existence is not 1 or 0. Okay, we are happy, we are sad, sometimes we are meh, kind of thing. So why this tendency to actually go digital? As long as it serves us well and good, I think we are still some distance away from there. Those are my 2 cents. Rashmi.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Manan. I think it makes great sense what you have told, because the whole world is running behind the technology, making digital, pushing themselves very hard. But somewhere in this race of running, we are also missing out. Ki yes, we are human beings, and it cannot be just computerized that way. So thanks for bringing it up here. And with this, I'll move on to Ms. Suchandra. My last question for you today. So, Suchandra, while we talk about the positives of the employee experience hybrid model of working, see, it's very much clear that everything has pros and cons, right? So, anything and everything, I should say. So, while we talk about only the positives or pros, now I would like to hear from Yuki, what are the cons of this employee experience? Like, to put it to you in a more clear manner, what factors negatively affect the employee experience?
Well, Rashmi, the things which affect employee experiences positively, if not done correctly, will affect employee experience negatively. So let me just put it in in 3 areas. 3 areas that we take care of when we want a positive or we want to enhance employee experiences: environment, work, and person, right? So when we talk about environment, we try to create a good work experience, good work environment, and all. So it is like the relationship, the culture, and everything. Now, if these things are not addressed, like you don't have a supportive coworker, you don't have an open work culture, you don't have open communication in the environment, so the environment is in a negative state and it will affect your employee experience negatively, correct? So whenever we are looking at these aspects, we need to be cognizant of how our environment that we are creating for our employees today is going to affect their mojo, I will say, how they're affecting their moods, how they're affecting their working styles, how they are as an individual, or they are going to adapt to it. The second is work. For every employee, apart from whatever the reason they're joining an organization is for the work, right? They need to have a clarity of what is expected out of them. They need to have an understanding of what work they are doing. What is the work that they are doing has an impact on the business, right? So when we are creating meaningful work, right, we are ensuring that the employee skills and talent are used to the fullest. They create a positive experience. But when these things are missing, when an employee is working but doesn't know what is it that is happening, what is the business strategy, where this organization is going, those are the factors in the work area which is going to create a negative experience as well for the employees, correct? Lot of employees I have seen move out of organization stating that I'm not able to relate or understand where I'm contributing to in terms of work. I don't see myself growing within the organization because there is no career definition or my growth path is not clear. A lot of times employees are given bits and pieces of work and they're moved from one project to another. So they're not able to upskill themselves, they're not able to grow themselves, they're not able to have a positive impact within the organization, and that's a negative employee experience, right? Third important aspect is person. So person here defines the employee, the managers, and everyone inclusive in the organization. So when we talk about person, we refer that, okay, as I mentioned, like how in a hybrid policy or employee experience means what kind of empowerment and opportunity we have given to the individual for their voices to be heard within the organization, right? So if the persons or an employee feels that my voice is not being heard, right? My manager is micromanaging. I have got too much of stress in the work, nobody is hearing me out. These are likely to create negative employee experiences. It is not about the big picture, but most of the time it's the day-to-day activities which ensures that an employee is creating those experiences. So today, if I'm doing something and my manager is constantly hassling me to send in a report, though there is a time, or constantly making me work on those road reports repeatedly, which means that there is no clarity of what he wants, it is creating a negative employee experience for me. It is affecting me negatively. So I am constantly adding on to my experience layers over here. And at one point, I would just, when I go out and say like, hey, this is not such a great organization to work with, because the managers are clueless about what they are doing, how it is happening. And that in fact, is affecting our entire branding and everything. I'd like, it's a loop. What you are creating will come back to you positively. What you're creating negatively will impact you negatively. Yes, Rashmi.
Yeah, so I think this only reminds me of one saying, Suchandra, what goes around comes around. Yeah, thank you so much for bringing it up here. So I don't see any questions from the audience. So dear attendees, I'm assuming that you have no questions for us today. I think our discussion was very fruitful that way. So thank you so much. And I think now it's time to wind up the session. But before that, a quick heads up to all our attendees. So if in case you have any questions for us after the session ends, you can always reach out to us with the community called Great Tribe. So what is this Great Tribe? It is a Great HR initiative. Basically, it's a Q&A forum where a lot of knowledge sharing happens. So all you need to do is just sign up for this Great Tribe community, and you can see there are a lot of HR peers whom you can interact with, whom you can share your knowledge with, and not just the HR peers, but we also have expert panel there. So many experts like Mr. Chandra or Mr. Manan will give you the answers if you post any questions there. So please don't hesitate. The URL for this community is already here on the screen. So please do give it a try, and I'm sure you'll be happy with it. So on this note, I'm going to end the session. But before that, thank you once again, Ms. Suchandra and Mr. Manan, for taking out time out of your busy schedule and for sharing a lot of these thoughtful insights with us. I'm sure all our attendees could easily relate to what you have spoken today. So in fact, I myself is happy that I got this opportunity to conduct the session today. Thank you so much. And also, dear attendees, thank you for attending the session and for making it successful. I'm sure the insights shared here were quite informative and helpful. So we'll be looking forward to see you in our upcoming sessions. Till then, take care of yourself. Have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye.